Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video brought to you by Florida Vision Technology. Today, we have a special guest with us, the National Account Manager of HIMS Inc., Earle Harrison. Earle, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Jose. It's great to be here.
We greatly appreciate you joining us today. So, Earle, can you do me a favor before we go into information about the product that we're going to show today, the BrailleSense 6? Can you give us a little information about yourself and about HIMS Inc.?
Sure. So I've been around for a couple years, dating back to the 90s when I went to work for a little company out of St. Petersburg, Florida called Hunter Joyce. Um, I became my claim to fame was as the voice of Jaws because I was the voice you heard when you put the Jaws CD in the drive, which allowed a blind person to, for the first time, independently install a commercially available screen reader, which of course was the JAWS for Windows screen reader. I worked for them in the training department for about 4 years, and I conducted workshops and I developed all their audio curriculum and tutorials and such. And then I was invited to join the sales department later on. My job brought me back to my home state of Minnesota. I should have stayed in Florida, but no, I love Minnesota. I just don't love the winters in Minnesota. But
Maybe it's colder than
it's freezing. I worked as the regional manager for the South Central and the Pacific Northwestern United States for about a year before I got an offer by the Minnesota Star Program, which is the assistive technology project for the state of Minnesota. And it was an unsolicited position, and it just seemed like a good fit. I mean, state job, government job, good benefits, good pay. What's not to like? So I took it, and I did decide later on as I was doing. I loved the job. I did lots of disability awareness workshop. I was kind of the accessibility police for the state, and I would do things like, tell them, hey, this PDF is not accessible for the public, or your website has, says back then they used something called Bobby, is Bobby compliant because it was just the thing you put down at the end of your website, regardless of whether or not it was compliant. And I was the one who called them on that. And then, about 2005, I decided to take my part-time venture full-time, a little company called Triumph Technology, and we were the first company in the United States to bundle mobile screen reading technology like mobile speaks and talks and put them on cell phones and PDAs, uh, and configure them so they would show up on the consumer's doorstep already talking. There were some really fun times and great devices, with the KNFB reader on the Nokia devices and things like that. I ran that company for about 15 years. During that time, there's a little company out of Cupertino, California, came along with their accessibility policy, their universal accessibility policy, where everything you buy from Apple would be come with a screen reader called VoiceOver, which I hear you're using today, Jose. And I've actually authored during my time with Triumph Technology a 3-day workshop called the Mac Academy Workshop, and I authored the book. The workshop was called Mac Academy Workshop, and the book was cleverly named the Mac Academy Workshop and Study Guide. So it was for the Mac, and then all these materials came available for free. The workshops, they kind of rode that wave for a while, and we continued to distribute Braille devices for companies such as HIMS, Humanware, and HandyTech out of southern Germany. In fact, we're the North American distributor for HandyTech, and we had lots of corporate accounts, like with companies like Microsoft and Oracle and Delta Airlines and things like that. So that was a good time. But in 2017, my wife and I decided to kind of wind her down, and I approached HIMS about carrying the Handytech line, which they did for a couple of years. At the end of those negotiations in December 2000, or yeah, 2017, after Christmas, I had completed those negotiations and I found myself wondering what I'm going to do as an unemployed person and what was my next venture or calling is going to be. And later on that day, I actually received a call from the then Vice President of Sales and Marketing, Damian Pickering, who offered me a job. So on January 1st, I found myself sitting in Austin in the corporate headquarters over there, signing my employment agreement with them. I'd like to say that it's been smooth sailing ever since, but I worked as a regional manager for them for about 3 years, and of course, COVID happened in October of 2020. Actually, yeah, I started to work as I left HIMSS and I started to work as a rehab instructor for an agency here in Minneapolis. I just, I had no problem with HIMSS, but I wasn't doing the job I was hired to do because the COVID restrictions had brought travel to a screeching halt. Interestingly, I'd been using Zoom as a sales tool for about 3 years, right from the beginning when I started with HIMSS, which was a great sales tool before COVID came along and it kind of became the gold standard. But I took this new job, and on November 14th, I actually lost my older brother, Todd, to COVID-19.
Sorry, man.
And in 4 days later, on November 18th, I was hospitalized for the same reason, where I would remain for 10 weeks, 3 of those weeks on a vent with less than a 50% chance of survival. It was a time of my life where I experienced the best of the humanity and the worst of humanity, but like I tell people, when you have faith, and I promise I won't give a sermon, but when you have faith, you're never afraid, and this is very true. I was in the hospital until January 13th, so I started on November 18th, left the hospital January 13th, and I was admitted into an acute rehab program. And with the combined efforts of the hospital rehab staff, physical therapists, occupational therapists, respiratory therapists, remember, I couldn't move, I couldn't eat, I couldn't talk. I had to learn how to breathe again. With the combined efforts of those staffs, they got me from a Hoyer lift, which is a mechanical lift that would basically lift you up and bring you back and forth between the bed and the chair. And in 3 weeks' time, I was up and walking independently with my guide dog Agassi, which I think is a miracle. So on January 27th, I was discharged to home, and I've been on the mend ever since. So I'm what they call a long hauler. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go back to work. And when it became evident that I was getting better, I did return to work as a rehab instructor, which served me really well until I was approached by my former boss and CEO of HIMSS Incorporated, Randy On, who offered me a position as the national account manager. So basically doing all the same stuff I was doing as a regional manager. It's just, a cool title, and they could send me more places. Basically what that meant.
Nice.
But see, well enough to be dangerous at one point, and dangerous to others and myself. I would do things like play football badly. I'd ride my bike and ride down the flight of stairs I wasn't aware was there, and I'd just continue riding like, hey, I meant to drive down that flight of stairs.
Oh my God, that's dangerous.
Pull up on the left side of the city bus. It's about to pull out. I never had any vision at night, so I would ride my bike and I would follow the taillights of the cars ahead of me and things like that. It's really a blessing that I'm here. It's a wonder.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're doing better from the whole COVID situation
Yeah, yeah.
that you're holding
Well,
on.
while I was in recovery mode from COVID, I tuned into a, a podcast, or it was a webinar actually, that was being put on by my coworker out there on the West Coast, Thomas Simpson, talking about this new high-fangled device, the upgrade from the Polaris to the BrailleSense 6. And that's what we're going to be showing you today. Um, and I couldn't believe the upgrade price. So my wife and I just kind of looked at each other. She's also blind. And it's like, yeah, we'd be stupid not to do this. So we did this.
Mm.
So I got I'd signed up for my BrailleSense 6 before I knew I was going to come back to work for HIMS, because it just made sense for me, and I wanted it. I wanted this device with these specifications. And um, when I learned I was going to come back to work for HIMS, then my upgrade, because they sent me a demo model and said, sorry, we got to take care of our customers first, so you're like last on the list. So I had to wait for the list to clear before I could get my BrailleSense updated. But so when I travel, a lot of what I do is I go around as a national account manager working with our dealers network. I will go and work with school districts, especially those who have maybe purchased a quantity of our product, doing workshops and doing one-on-one training with teachers, TVIs, whatever they need me to do. I work with agencies and corporations and things like that, um, on really the ins and outs on what the device is capable of doing and how to do it.
Very cool. So before we get into the BrailleSense 6, can you give us a little information about what HIMS Inc. is and what the BrailleSense 6 is as well?
Yeah, so HIMS Incorporated is a US-based company. However, our parent company is Salvus Healthcare, which is publicly traded, huge conglomeration located in South Korea. And under them is HIMS International, so they serve the rest of the world. HIMS Incorporated is here, based in Austin. I'm actually based in Minneapolis. That's where my home base is. But the corporate offices are in Austin, and we serve North American. The North America customer base,
And
mostly U.S. and Canada.
what is it that they specialize in? Like what type of technology?
Yeah, so blindness and low vision technology. We do have we used to have more low vision offerings. Right now we have a really good one. It's called the Go Vision line. So it consists of a low vision or a low vision pro line, which is a transportable. We call it a transportable magnification system, because it's not the kind of thing you're going to carry from class to class or from room to room, except maybe if you're at home, because it does have a handle on the top. But it has a self-viewing mode, so it just knows when you point the camera back at yourself, it puts it into self-viewing mode. It knows when you point the camera away, like out the window, for example, and you flip the lens up, then it's in distance viewing mode. And it knows that when you point the camera down at the desktop, that you're in near viewing mode, and you can read anything that you want. And it does have the ability to do OCR. So the basic model of the Go Vision is very much what you see is what you get, OCR. But the Pro version actually has a secondary camera that allows for full page OCR regardless of what is in your field of view using the magnifier. So those are pretty cool products. We also have, and what we're most known for, I think, are the Braille products. The BrailleSense the BrailleSense series has been around since early 2000s. In fact, I got my first BrailleSense as a dealer for a company you might remember called GW Micro,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
when they were the North American distributors for HIMS. And I was just enthralled with this thing. It was just showed up. It was so intuitive. As a technically a deafblind person myself, I was very interested in whether or not I could plug a keyboard into it and make it work. And boom, I just plugged a USB keyboard in. There it was working with my BrailleSense. So this excited me because this allowed me to use it as kind of a face-to-face device because of the LCD display on the top of the BrailleSense. We'll get to that. But it would allow me to use it as a face-to-face solution with a person who's deafblind or maybe not verbal. So since then, there have been several iterations. The previous model you may have heard of called the BrailleSense Polaris and the BrailleSense Polaris Mini. The BrailleSense 6 boasts a faster processor. It's an 8-core processor. 6 gig of RAM, which is twice as much as our Polaris or our closest competitor. 128 gig of onboard storage that can be expanded to like galore with SD cards and other external peripherals like USB drives and the like. And it's also running the Android operating system, Android version 10. We're about to jump to 12 or 13, depending on what the powers that be decide, which even with Android 10, we're back compatible to anything running Android 6. And we're literally the newest OS, even at Android 10, than any of our competitors' products. And so that's the BrailleSense, and there's a BrailleSense 6, and there's the 6 Mini, and I also have. I'm going to go ahead and hold these devices up if that's okay, unless you have other questions.
Please share them, and if you could describe what you're holding up to our viewers, totally blind.
Yeah. So, and I hope I'm still in good view of your camera. Neither that's what you get when you have two blind guys trying to do a video. Right?
Two blind guys doing a web show.
Yes. So what we have here is the BrailleSense 6, and I've got it oriented so it's facing the camera here with the Braille display down at the bottom. So I'm showing the top panel of the display, which has your typical Perkins style, 8 or 9 key keyboard, including the .7, .8, otherwise known as backspace and enter, and the space bar down here. On either side of the space bar, we've got a control and an alt key. And moving from left to right, we've got these little keys above the Braille display that have a little tactile marking, very cleverly named F1 for function key, F1, F2, and to the right of the spacebar, we've got F3 and F4. And on either side of the Braille array, this is a 32-cell Braille display, and we've got your scroll up and down buttons, which are programmable, so you can set one to maybe scroll 32 characters at a time, which is, of course, the size of the Braille display, the length of the Braille display. Or you can program to move by sentence, paragraph, line, whatever you decide. Above that, we have, above the Braille display itself, we have, most people are familiar who use Braille displays, these cursor routing buttons, which will, press 1 and it'll bring you to where you want to carry out an editing function in a document, for example, or maybe you want to click on a clickable element, and those will activate those as well. We've got speakers on the top left and right. These little grids up here, they actually sound really good. The speakers do. And on the front, we have the, I accidentally turned it back on. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so it doesn't try to talk over me. From right to left, I have to think about this because I'm now showing the front panel of the device, which is in a case. And in the little recessed hole here, we've got a button that is actually flush with the device just to prevent the accidental pressing of it. It's our power button. And, you know, it's just like any other Android tablet where you use it, you put it to sleep, you go to the next place, you wake it up, kind of thing. The BrailleSense 6 has an amazing battery life. It is a user replaceable battery, and we're boasting about 18 to 20 hours of continuous use with the with the battery. To the right of the power button, we have these 5 buttons, which are what they do are determined by the 3-position switch to the left of those buttons. And right now it's set for media. And if I switch it, the middle position would be switched over to DAISY mode. So it'll control my DAISY book reader. And if I flick it to the far left position, it's then in app mode. So it'll actually work with my third-party apps, for example, pausing and resuming the playback of an audio described movie on Netflix, for example, using it to control next or previous track on Pandora or whatever app you happen to be using. And let's see here. There's another switch all the way to the left, and that is your lock switch. So because the speakers sound so amazing on the BrailleSense 6, I mean, we're not talking like big subwoofers or anything, but for laptop quality speakers, they're really very good. So a lot of people will use it as their book reader. So they'll use Bard or Bookshare and listen to their books on the BrailleSense. And because it comes with this really nice protective case with a shoulder strap, you can connect that. And if you flip the switch on the far left, it'll actually lock either the top panel, the middle position locks the top panel of the device, and the furthest left position locks all keys. So if you are listening to a book or a movie or something, and you want to have access to the front panel, you just flip it to the middle position without having to worry about accidentally bumping a key. Okay, so that's the front panel. So yeah, only thing we have on the back panel is this Type A USB host port. If I flip over to the right panel, there's actually Braille markings on the top above the front USB port, which is a USB-C port, and there's a V for video. That's where we would plug our video peripherals in, such as a monitor. I do travel with a G-Tech monitor, and I plug it in there so people can see what's going on in the exhibit hall. A lot of sighted folks want to maybe see what's going on. Teachers of the visually impaired, TVIs, love the ability to do this. And we decided to do this because it just made better sense for us to just have a regular keyboard and not have a screen to add to the weight of the device. So the weight is really important. It's not much more than a pound. And in fact, the BrailleSense 6 Mini, which I'll show you in a second, is actually less than a pound. And I think it's just to add a pound in weight with inside the case. The back USB-C port has the letter P, and that stands for PC or power. So this is where we would connect our USB-C cable to our computer, and we could either drive it and use it as a terminal for a screen reader and get Braille access to whatever screen reader we're using. Or it sees that if you're plugged into the computer, it'll actually see it as a mass storage device. So basically just another drive that you can go and copy and paste contents between. In between those USB-C ports, we've got yet another USB Type A host port. And I think only other things we got on here, on the front, I forgot to mention, on either corner, there's little holes on either side end of the Braille display. Those are your microphones. So you got stereo microphone. And if you flip over to the left side, we also have, running from back to front. We've got a slot for an SD card. We've got in front of that, we've got a 1/8 inch microphone jack or 3.5 millimeter jack, and in front of that we've got the headphone jack. And in front of that, we've got your main volume up and down, which also has software, keyboard commands to control the volume. But if you want physical buttons, there they are to control your main volume. So the quality is so good of the BrailleSense 6, I'll actually use it as kind of my mastering deck when I'm doing music.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will record to my Mac using using Reaper, which is a multi-track system. I play, people still do pay me money to play live from time to time. I've got a couple gigs coming up here, and what I do is I always have an acoustic kit mic'd up in my studio here, and I run that to a Tascam mixer. It's actually a digital recorder that's completely inaccessible, but the mixer is fantastic, called a Tascam Model 24. And I'll use Reaper to record my tracks, drums, bass, keyboards, and guitar. And then when I play live, I use my BrailleSense 6 as my my onstage companion, because I can just switch off speech and have complete Braille access to all my backing tracks that I fire, the songs that I have recorded, and I just play guitar or keyboards over the top of that. So the quality is digital. I mean, you can record at 48,000 hertz or 41,000 16-bit stereo, MP3 format. You've got choices with it. And what I'll do is once I've finished my mix down, and I understand that you can actually take with Reaper, mix your project down on Reaper itself, but I just prefer to just take a line out of the Model 24, which has my, the audio is coming from the Mac, and play it back in real time and record it with the BrailleSense 6, and it turns out amazing. So I went off into the weeds a little bit there.
That's pretty cool. But I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So there's a 3.5 millimeter jack on there to connect like a headset.
Yeah.
What if you want to use like a Bluetooth headset? Does it have that
Oh yeah.
capability?
Yeah, no, it's got in fact, it supports the Bluetooth 5.1 chipset or protocol, and it is like, what the benefit to that is that the connection is really solid. The range is extended over the earlier iterations of that chipset, and it's a very low battery consumption as well. So yes. So I've got the BrailleSense 6 Mini here, and I'm going to just kind of hold it up against the BrailleSense 6. The differences between the BrailleSense 6 are literally the difference in size. We actually have a completely different form factor for the 6 Mini, which a lot of people love because it's just so easy to grab and throw it in your backpack or your purse. And it has all the same controls. Maybe the speaker is on the bottom on the BrailleSense 6 Mini because there's just no room up top. It has an SD micro card in the battery compartment instead of the SD card slot on the side, again for size consideration. But it still has, and it doesn't have the stereo microphones, it's a mono mic, but it has all the same other stuff. With the exception of the Type A USB port, again, space was a consideration. But it will accommodate, of course, because it's USB-C, and USB-C is such a robust protocol that you can plug in a hub and have access to whatever you want to have on that hub, whether it be HDMI or USB Type A or whatever. We have people using like these external drives that have a really large capacity, and it handles those really well also. In fact, right now I am not recording, you're doing the recording, but I'm using a little mixer called a Rockville Rock Mix Pro 4, I only mentioned the model name because the 5 is not nearly as accessible as the Pro 4. But all I do is what I've got going on is I've got a USB cable plugged into my computer where I'm running Zoom, and my audio from my computer will actually loop back into the mixer, so I can, people can hear my audio from my computer. But I also have an auxiliary cable going into a channel on the mixers from my BrailleSense, so you can hear the BrailleSense as well. So there's so much flexibility there. It's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
wild for a Braille note taker to do all this stuff. I mean, that's a powerful machine for the size of what it is. That's pretty amazing.
yeah, it really is a fun device to use. Well, the other difference between the two devices, of course, is the cost. So $57.95 is the retail cost of the BrailleSense 6 32-cell model, and of course, with Braille being the most expensive part of that package, um, you can knock about $1,200 off of that by purchasing the BrailleSense 6 Mini. And I'm here to tell you that you're not giving up anything in terms of raw performance. The BrailleSense 6 Mini it has every bit as much horsepower under the hood as the bigger model. And in fact, I've got my personal BrailleSense 6, but when they came out with the Mini for test units, the pre-production units, I got the privilege of having one that I could move into, and I used it for a few months. And it's like when I had to turn it back into a demo model, I got very sad because it was like, wow, I love this thing, but I can't justify the cost of a second BrailleSense product. So
Besides the size, the
uh,
weight, the hardware, what about the Braille? I mean, do they both have
oh yeah,
32 cells?
there's same Braille cells. It's very. I've heard people describe our Braille as the very crisp rail cells, and they both use the same cells. They're actually manufactured by KGS.
But does the Mini have 32 cells like the
Oh,
regular Braille
no,
6?
the Mini has 20 cells. I'm sorry, did I not mention that? Yeah. So there's the form factor, and we couldn't get more than 20 cells in there. So that's actually what brings the cost down, is the fewer Braille cells.
So yeah, let's jump into the actual demonstration of the BrailleSense 6 and see what that's all about.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, in fairness to the Q Braille, I would like to just do a quick um, demonstration of that, either after the demonstration or before. It's totally up to you, Jose.
Well,
Um,
if you want, you could go ahead and knock that out now.
all right, and really that's all it is knock it out, because we all know what a Braille display does. It connects to other stuff. And I'm holding up the Q Braille XL, and what's funny is that people come, they put their hands on it. It's like, oh, there's so many Braille, so many buttons. How would I ever know what they all do? And we put it into perspective like this. Imagine a laptop keyboard, and you take away all the letters and the numbers in the main area of that keyboard. In their place, you put a Perkins style keyboard, so a Braille keyboard. And now you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the ability to type in contracted Braille if you want, because the translation is done on the device itself as you're entering into, say, an email message on your phone or your computer. It's already translated by the time it gets to those devices. So all those devices know is that there's just a keyboard connected to it, and that's what's doing the entry. But we can type in contracted Braille. We never have to take our hands off the Braille display, which is something that oh, Braille transcriptionists and people who make their living proofreading in Braille and things like that love, because it's an ergonomic consideration. And before they got their Q Braille XL, they were forever going back and forth between the keyboard and the Braille display, whatever that was, whichever one that was. Here they can just keep their hands on one device. Alt tab on the Q Braille XL is the same as Alt tab on the computer, and if you want to move between the two, you can. So you just issue all those same commands that you're familiar with on your computer on the Q Braille XL. And the benefit of this is that you can actually connect up to 7 devices simultaneously and switch between them on the fly, which, 7 devices is kind of crazy, but that's that's what you can do. I think the most I've ever done is 4.
Yeah.
So you can flip between, your Windows computer and your Mac and your tablet and your phone and whatever the case is, however you want to configure it. But when you don't want to have it connected to anything, whether it be via USB or Bluetooth, you can use it as a standalone book reader because it actually does have support for DAISY books, text-based DAISY books, as well as text-based PDF files that you can read on it. And it has all of the same internal functions as its predecessor, the Braille Edge, which people were very sad to see go away, but that has been discontinued. You would still have all of these same internal applications like a stopwatch, countdown timer, calculator, scheduler, and I'm probably forgetting some things. So it is a very flexible device at about half the cost of the BrailleSense 6. So it's really about what you need it for. Do you need to connect to other things? Do you need basic access to materials as on the go? But for $3,100, it is a $3,195. It is really a good value. It's a 40 cell Braille display, by the way.
That's awesome.
That is the Q Braille XL. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Jose. Let's see if I'm in.
Select the window or an application that you want to share. Basic tab selected. Sharing options with
share.
Whiteboard. Launch and share whiteboard. Screen. Share your entire screen. H632B.
H632B.
Share. Stop video left arrow plus the right arrow button. Participants can now see your application.
Okay, so we're going to take it as Word that our participants can now see our application. And you can now
File Manager F.
hear my applications as well. So I'm using the BrailleSense 6 I've got sitting in front of me here. And what's really funny about the BrailleSense 6 is that back in the day when it first came out, it was based on Windows CE, which stands for Compact Edition. And that remained the case until the BrailleSense U2 version, when during that was a long time, like 5 or 6 years that the U2 was around, and it was really a fantastic device. I know people who still have them and love them, but Microsoft stopped supporting CE and we had to move somewhere else. So we looked to Android, and that's where the Polaris came along with the version 5 of Android operating system is where it stopped. And but when it moved over to Android, they wanted to maintain the same command structure that people were already used to, because they wanted people to just kind of move from one device to the other without a hitch. So now I have a Android device that behaves like a Windows device that I can connect to my Apple device if I want to and drive that. But what I mean by it behaving like a Windows device is every time I press the F1
File Manager
button,
F.
it is always, without exception, going to bring me to my main menu, and the first item in my main menu is the File Manager. And F2 will always bring me into the menu system for the application I'm working in at the time. And so that's kind of like your Alt key, press Alt key and you get into the menu system. F3 is my tab. If I hold space down with that, that brings me back the other direction. F4 is my close button. So think of that as, if you're working on the Windows operating system, as Control F4. It just closes out one thing at a time. So if you're in a dialogue, you might press F4, move back to the menu from which you launched that dialogue, and you press it again and you're back into the main window of the application. So those are what the function keys do by themselves, but there are things that you can do with them in combination with other keys. For example, if I want to
Voice volume 9.
turn up the volume
Voice volume 10.
on my BrailleSense, you don't hear much of a difference in volume because I'm running line out into a mixer. But if I hold down, so I'm pressing backspace or F7 with the F4 to bring the volume up. If I want to adjust the main volume, I just add space and backspace
Main volume. Main volume.
to that, and then it's bringing the main volume up and down.
Main volume 15.
I've got all my alerts turned off and I have it set to vibrate. So as I was doing that, and it hit the default volume level, which is I believe is 12 for the main volume.
Main volume 15.
I actually felt a vibration because I just have it set to vibrate when that happens. If I'm using my BrailleSense 6 and I'm going from meeting to meeting, and everybody hear what's going on in my BrailleSense, and I don't want to wear headphones, and I just want to turn off the speech, I press backspace with F2.
Voice off.
And turns the speech off, and that's a toggle, so I can
Voice on.
turn it back
File
on
manager
and off.
F.
If I press the Enter key, otherwise known as .8, with those very same keys, F1 or F4,
Voice
I
pitch.
can-
Voice pitch 9.
that's my pitch.
Voice pitch 5.
I think I'm going for rate, so space bar is with F1 and F4
Voice rate 12.
brings my
Voice rate 7. Voice rate 6.
up and down. Okay, so I'll leave it at 6 for now. What am I leaving out? Oh, as I'm moving down through the main menu, I hear, like when I heard file manager, I see there's a letter F. I press space.
Word processor W.
Word processor has a W as the hotkey or shortcut key.
Notepad N.
N for notepad.
Email E.
So I can press the hotkey for any of these applications or folders, depending on
Media M.
what it is. For example, everything up until now, except for file manager, has been an application, but now I'm in media, which is a folder, and I see that the letter M is the shortcut key to get into this folder.
Books K.
Books is another folder.
Organizer O.
And let's just say that I'm here in the menu, and I know I want to go to Notepad. So first letter navigation works out through the entire system, and that includes third-party applications. So if I want to get into the Notepad, I'll just press the letter N.
Pop-up document.
And I'm in. So that's how fast the processor is. You may have had to wait a little longer using the Polaris before you got into the application, but now that I am in the application, Notepad application, remember my UEB. See, I come from the time before UBEB.
Me too. Me too.
Application A dots 456 ION. Yet I mean N. I can type pretty fast. Not real fast, but I know people
fast period
way faster than me. And you can see on the screen that we have just regular text appear on the screen, but down at the bottom, we've got something called SimBraille. And that just appears, and I'm trying to remember whether I turned off the SimBraille, but trust me, if it's off, it will be there by default, and you can turn it off from the global options menu. So my point to all of this is that it is very fast, very responsive. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, instead of saving this work of art, I'm going to bail out.
No name.txt, no prompt button.
I'll say, no, I don't want to save it. And I'm going to close out of all applications because I'm not running anything except Notepad right now. So one of the things that I share as I'm going around demoing this is that I tell a story about an invitation I had to go show demonstrate the BrailleSense 6 to a consumer by a state agency, one of the techs, it doesn't matter what state, but I showed up and met with a young lady, a very pleasant young lady, and I was showing her the BrailleSense, and the tech who invited me just kept kind of interjecting, saying, well, I can do that on my phone. And it's just like, I'm thinking to myself, first of all, it's not nice of you to invite me and then like proceed to try to derail my presentation. I mean, but instead of what I said, no, you can't. He said, yes, I can. I said, no, I promise you that let's go, you and I, right now. I've closed out all my applications, you and me, to see if. Oh, by the way, you can't use dictation because
File manager.
And this
F.
was in fairness, this was a sighted guy, like a low vision guy, who didn't really pay much attention to Braille, anyways. But I said, let's you and I, let's go ahead and start a note. So boom.
Task name, Notepad.
I'm in Notepad. Oh,
Top of document.
you and me. Now I'm gonna go find a file and let's go to the file manager.
Task name, file manager.
Yeah,
Flash
he'd
list
still be
1-4
flicking
list
around on his phone trying to find out, because he can't use dictation, remember? Trying to find where his notepad is, things like that. Yeah, you and me. We've done file manager, notepad. Let's go
Task name, Google
do
search.
a Google search.
Search
Let's open
term
our
edit
word
box.
processor.
Task name, word processor.
I mean, you get
Top
the
of document.
picture. I am. This has so greatly improved my workflow, and I can actually cycle between these apps, the same as using Command Tab on your Mac or Alt Tab on your Windows machine. I press F2, F3 at the same time.
Task name, Notepad.
Now I'm cycling between those open applications.
Task name, file manager. Task name, Google search. Task name, blank.
And if I want to bring down the equivalent to the equivalent of the app switcher, I just bring my fingers to the outer buttons on the device to bring up my list
Task
of
name, Notepad 1-4 list item.
running applications, and I can go through here and kind of delete.
Task name, Google
And I
search word
press space
processor.
D, and I just close those apps, just like doing a swipe up.
Notepad.
I do it. I can't even remember what the keystroke is on the iPhone to close apps from the app switcher. That's how bad I'm. So my brain is
File
just
manager.
ingrained in the action. I don't even remember what the physical keystroke is. It's 3-finger swipe up, isn't it?
To exit app switcher is a 1-finger swipe up from the bottom.
Oh, that's if you got the hoity-toity no home
The
button.
home button, yeah. Or if you have a home button, you just press the home button and it takes you to the main menu.
Yes. So no, I've got the SE2. I don't even have the SE3 anymore because for my birthday, my wife was like, "Oh, do you want the 14 Pro?" It's like, no, not really. And it's just like I want to wait for the next one, to come out. So, and that's again, there I go off into the weeds.
Media. File manager. F.
Let's return back to our main menu, and I'm going to just basically show you one of the things that really helps to improve my workflow personally. I can go into
Flash list 1-4 list item.
my file manager, and in here I see my list of drives, and I see the flash disk, which again is 128 gig of onboard storage, which is lots of space. But if I want to move down through the
Google Drive 2-4
list,
list
I see
item.
I've got Google Drive, just on virtue of the fact that I set up a Gmail account, gives me 15 gig of free space on the Google servers.
OneDrive 3-4 list item.
Oh, what's this? OneDrive? Yeah, just on virtue of the fact that I've got a Office 365 account, gives me a full terabyte of space. And of course, I've got Dropbox.
Dropbox 4-4 list item.
Which started I think it was at the beginning of the whole cloud services craze.
OneDrive 3-4 list item.
Which a lot of people still use, including myself. But I'm going to go ahead and go into OneDrive.
I just want to make a note while you're doing that. I like the fact that when you went into your file managing application, it's like flash disk 1 of 4, Dropbox 4 of 4, Google Drive 2 of 4. It's letting you know how many items there are in that menu that you're in.
Yes, and if you had an SD card in the SD slot, it would tell you 1, 2 of 5 or whatever, however many you have. And some people have multiple peripherals, just basically plugged in into a USB hub, which is a whole nother thing that you can do. I mean, I go around with a monitor. Again, I'm running my BrailleSense. If I wanted to run right off of my BrailleSense 6 into the sound card, or the Rockville mixer, which I have sitting next to me, like $60 on Amazon, something like that. I mean, it's just it'll pipe your audio from your BrailleSense over Zoom directly, into a meeting. And if you want to share something, it's a joy to use. And I can tell you, nobody does Braille translation like HIMS either, because you type a document, you save it, you bring it up in your word processor. There's no having to worry about translating or back translating anything. It just works, based on the file extension.
Shared with me folder 2 to list item.
So I've got two things in my OneDrive. I've got my drive, which are the things that I put out there, and the things that people have shared with me. I'm going to go
My drive folder 1
back
to
up to
list
my
item.
drive. And again, remembering
Attachments folder 120
that
list item.
first letter navigation works throughout the entire system. I'm going to go to, I think I have here MP3.
MP3 backing tracks folder 620 list item.
So these are some of the backing tracks that I've recorded.
11 Take the Money and Run.txt 158 list
Here's
item.
a song called Take the Money and Run.
11 Take the Money. A long train running in China. A long train running in China Grove tracks MP3
Let's
SF.
pick one.
Take it easy tracks MP3 5058 list item.
So this Take It Easy. Let's try
Take the Money and Run MP3 5158
we'll just
list
take
item.
the money and run. We'll just press enter on this right from the cloud. It's not even on my BrailleSense.
One object's copied.
Basically
take the money and run MP3 5158 list item.
And I'm listening to it in stereo, by the way, and sounds pretty good. This is the story about Billy Joe and Bob Sue.
Take the money and run MP3
that is
5158 list item.
How easy it is to just trigger a file and have it open in the default application, whether it is an MP3 file, as is the case here. Whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, you can open it up into our Excel viewer. You can open it, a PowerPoint presentation, actually run your PowerPoint presentation for an audience from the cloud, which I don't recommend doing, but you can. What I'd rather do is I could take this file and I can either create a shareable link with you.
Link HTTPS 1DRVMS 5632
and now I can just
copy link,
copy that link,
copy complete,
and just send it to you in an email, or I can just
cancel.
Copy
Take the money and run MP3 5158
itself.
list copying. Take the money and run MP3 5158 list item.
Press the backspace key to just kind of move up one level at a time in our driver.
MP3 backing tracks folder OneDrive 34 list item.
I'm back to OneDrive. I'm going to go up to Flash.
Flash disk 14 list item.
Enter on that.
Android folder 144 list
and
item.
let's say I want to put it in my downloads folder. I'll just press D
Daisy
until
folder
I get
544 database folder 64 documents folder 7 download folder 840 2022 HIMS Incorporated. Standard price sheet August 2000 pasting.
And there you go. Now I have it on my BrailleSense.
Take the money and run MP3 1012 list.
I mean, so
that's so
imagine one scenario that I like to use. I could just totally see this happening to myself back when I was in college before any of this existed. We had to write on stone scrolls and stuff and hieroglyphics. It was bad. And but with this stuff, man, I tell you, I could have ruled the world. I wouldn't just be going around schlepping technology for a living. No, I'm just kidding. I love my job. But you're in a study group and you're at school and you get to the study group and you realize, oh boy, I forgot what I was responsible for to bring for this study group. So now all you need is an internet connection, which could be as simple as connecting to the hotspot on your phone or the college Wi-Fi, and you just go get it. You just jump online and go get it. It's so easy. And I actually have a video card. It's a video capture card. And the first tutorial that I recorded, a video tutorial, which I'm doing very much the same thing that you're doing here with your Zoom presentations, making it available to anybody, whether it's visual or just audible. My coworker called me up. He's like, Earle, what are you using to get your screenshots? Because it is superb. And it's just a video capture card. I can't see it. I record the video on my BrailleSense directly to the capture card. Then I flip it over to the capture card over to mass storage mode. And I just copy and upload it to a shared folder, and there you go. There it is, and it's just that simple to share content with people, and it's just so greatly just improved my workflow personally.
Earl, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Someone asking, so you're speaking about being able to capture video using the BrailleSense 6. Are you able to connect a webcam to it via USB?
Oh yeah, you would just get a USB. You could either connect it to the Type A port or the USB Type C port. I have a Logitech one here that works quite well. You just have to remember, I think the protocol here is to, if you start the BrailleSense from a cold start, and your webcam supports audio, it's going to grab your audio, and it's going to but if you plug it in after the BrailleSense is plugged in, then it'll just do the video.
Cool.
As well. So the answer is yes. I went way beyond yes.
Very
Sorry.
cool. This is a powerful little machine, man. I mean, I knew it was powerful because, obviously I demonstrate this product to my clients, and but it's just amazing to hear someone from HIMSS talk about it and see exactly what you can do with this device, whether you're a student, a professional. What's the youngest person who's using this device, and what's the oldest? Do you have like an idea?
I have an idea. I've got a student now that's I mean, I don't know, fourth grader. It's just like this. See, when I was in fourth grade, I think I was learning how to tie my shoes. but we got a fourth grader using a BrailleSense 6, not even the mini version, but for the smaller hands, the BrailleSense Mini is another good solution if there's somebody with small hands, because you're not giving up anything in terms of performance. And it ranges through, you name it. I mean, this is a device that's going to follow a student. Right now, we're probably looking at that if you purchased a BrailleSense 6 today, you'd probably still be using it in 5 years.
Look at the older BrailleSense models. They came out, what, 10 years ago, and there's still people using them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, longer than 10 years ago.
So your youngest is fourth grade. So what is that? That's like about 8, 9 years old. Or maybe 10.
It depends. What are you using it for? Are you using it for work, school, or fun? Because it's got something for everybody. It really does. So we've got lots and lots of relationships with school districts and dealers that have relationships with school districts. And we'll oftentimes see the Schools for the Blind purchasing multiples of these devices and going out and doing workshops. And that it's the whole spectrum. And people who leave school and they go into, the transition age students, and they go to their rehab counselor and say, hey, I've used a BrailleSense 6, and then they end up getting a BrailleSense 6 to follow them through college or on into the workforce. So it's really, the sky's the limit. Now, if I go into
File Manager, F.
Talking about fun, I actually use the BrailleSense as my onstage companion because I record all my parts and then I play guitar or keyboards over the top and sing. And I've got that one-man band thing going for me. And actually people hire me to do it, so it's kind of fun.
Word processor, W.
If I go into all apps here,
Era.
you were asking about
what did that just say?
IRA.
Nice.
It's ERA, AIRA.
Yeah. That's the IRA app.
It's got the third-party app, right? It's got the third-party apps in here.
And
if I press N, you'll hear it say
Netflix.
So when I'm on the road, like I will be, and with a layover for the weekend next week in Maryland, I will be watching some movies and, with audio description and, me just kicking it with the guide dog here pretty much. But we also have apps like
Screen Stream.
an app called Screen Stream. If you look it up in the Play Store, it's called Screen Stream to HTTP. And what that allows you to do is provide somebody with a URL that they can then, so you can email it to them, and then they can paste it into whatever web browser they're using. It doesn't matter what platform, doesn't matter what web browser, and they can actually view your BrailleSense screen.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so and if you don't have a physical monitor, that is a really good solution. In fact, I am aware of one situation where you can have multiple windows open with different BrailleSense users. So like a teacher in a classroom of 4 or 5 people using the same device, she can actually monitor what's going on with their devices if they're in a class exercise or something, they need to share something.
That's so cool. What was the name of that app again?
It's called Screen Stream to HTTP, and keep in mind that it does not work on the internet. It only works on the local area network or the intranet.
Nice.
Which is fabulous for your IT people who are paranoid with, and you can't blame them for the
that sounds ideal for like a school setting. A lot of schools, they don't want you doing remote access with applications like TeamViewer or even some job situations. So if you just put the devices on the local network and use this application, I mean that could prevent you from having to go through all those steps of getting.
Yeah, and it's so easy. It really is so easy.
That's cool.
So another thing I want to show you and talk about here is I've got a little device was recommended by Jenny Axler out of she's this Iowa transplant to Korea. And she's been there for about 9 years already. I can't believe she's been there that long, but she loves her job and she loves to make recommendations for different accessories and peripherals. And while she's really good for, she recommended the Rockville Rock Mix mixer for my Zoom stuff. And she also recommended the something called a Belkin tablet stage. So she's really good for making recommendations, but she's really horrible for my finances.
I was gonna say, she sounds like she's really bad for the wallet.
It's true, but this device was $70 or $79, and it's called a tablet stage, and I'm just opening it up here on camera. Hopefully, y'all can see it, and I'm going to flip up this little flap at the front of it. I'm just going to take my BrailleSense. I'm going to set it on top. And as it happens, the camera, if I push it up against that little flap, that last thing that I pushed up there, actually, the camera actually pokes down through a slot underneath the tablet stand. And this thing is rigid. It's not going anywhere. So I'm going to go into an app, a free app called I'm going to say G Lookout because I don't want to say the G lady's name because she thinks that I want to do something.
Local news.
There's local news. I'll press L again.
Lookout.
There's Lookout.
Button signed in as Earle Harrison, Harrison Earle Gmail.
And there's my
account settings.
Personal
press enter, button change
email.
language. Button help, press enter to activate. Button turn camera off, press enter. Button recents, press enter to act. Button explore.
I'm just
data,
tabbing
in
through
list
here.
6 items, 0.
I hear explore beta, and that just means that I can show the camera around the room in here, except for the light that's shining down on me. It's pretty dark in here, so that it's in beta. It's not real reliable right now, but it's pretty cool when you can recognize things in the room or people who are approaching.
Button food labels, press enter to activate.
There's food labels. Yeah, let's just go ahead and press enter on that. I think I have something here. I always have food. Press enter.
Food labels.
Labels. And I hear
no product in view.
There's no product in view. I'm going to put my
product in view.
I'm going to put this product in view right now.
Product in view. Pine nuts and spices bar, dark chocolate.
As this pine nuts and spices bar, dark chocolate. That's the only food item I have here. If I tab again,
button text, press enter to activate.
I got text, and I'm going to grab some random text here. What do I got? Some random text. I really don't know what it is. I hope it's age appropriate. But what we got. Okay, nothing there. I think I'm looking at blank paper.
Apple R transfer Axal Bose LLM.
Oh, okay. So that's for my Bose
L116
little PA system.
Cool. And you're just using
So-
the 13 megapixel camera on the bottom of the device, right?
Yes. Oh, and it's applying the Spanish rules to the English language. Funny. Anyways, just to tell you a story, I'm gonna get out of this.
Button documents, press enter to button currency, press
there's
enter to
currency.
active currency.
Here, actually, see if I have some money. There's currency, and I really don't know what this is.
$20.
And now I do.
$20.
So cool.
So, and so I have a story where I just got so excited about this. I got my shredder, and I got all my back taxes dating back before, like, you were born, Jose. And I was able to go through fire through all of it my darn self and shred all those documents that you're not required to keep for. I mean, you're only supposed to keep the last 7 years, really. So I was able to go back to like 2003 and sit there and scan and shred and scan and shred without having to bare my soul and my personal information to some sighted person who is willing to read it to me. And it was easy. It was just so easy. So it really is a game changer. I'm going to bail out of this.
Look out.
And the last thing I want to show.
File manager, F.
Before we wrap her up with the BrailleSense, unless you want to see anything else, if you have any questions, is of course I mentioned the G lady, which is Google, and she didn't say it, didn't go beep. So my Spanish is terrible, and I don't know if she can hear you on my over my feed here, but I can do this. It doesn't have to be Spanish. It can be Arabic. It can be German. It can be French. Whatever the case, I can actually say, "Hey, Google, translate my conversation."
Got it.
Select
What language do you want translated?
Spanish.
All right, Spanish.
Button back. Button
Let's
tap
start.
to dismiss assistance. Press enter to activate.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Hi, how are you?
I am fine. I am fine, thank you.
Estoy bien. Estoy bien.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh,
That's
that
so
is so
cool.
cool.
That is so cool.
Todo
See,
eso es genial.
It's wild,
File
man.
manager, F.
And all I had to do is install the assistant. So I can go to my neighbors down the road here who are Arabic. They speak Arabic and have a conversation with them. And it's not perfect, but it's really it beats like nothing by a long shot.
It's funny. So my name is Jose, but I don't speak Spanish, right? But I live in South Florida where we have a huge Spanish-speaking population.
Oh, yes.
So being able to carry this device on me and get an Uber where my Uber driver might not speak English and have a conversation, that's pretty epic, man. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Or even to travel, if you're someone who likes to travel,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Now, remember, you got to have an internet connection, so you probably want to be tied to your hotspot on your phone to make it work well. But I do think you can download languages. So if you're going to be interacting in Spanish with a lot of people, you can download the library.
That's so cool.
So you wouldn't have to necessarily be online. So I think that is just about everything. If you have any questions from your listening audience or your questions yourself, just fire away.
Oh man, that was so cool. So let's see if you have any questions in the audience. What about people who want to use math?
A Mac?
Math, like
math. Oh, hey, we've got a visual. I'm gonna pull my I'm going to collapse my tablet stand and put my BrailleSense down in front of me, and I'm just going to do a little demo here for you. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to
File manager, F.
I'm going to go into the word processor because that is where our math editor lives.
Top of document.
And what's nice
What apostrophe S?
about
Nice.
this
About
is
this
that
is
I can mix literary math or literary Braille and math in the same document.
Period.
I have to only remember to start a new line, and I see it flashing dots 7 and 8 on the far left of my Braille display. That indicates that I am still in literary mode. As soon as I press backspace with the letter M,
mode.
I'm now in Nimith mode, and I see, and it could be UEB mode. You got the choice.
Cool.
Here in Minnesota, we've kind of standardized on Nimith math. So I've got one flashing dot, which is dot 7. So that tells me very clearly that I am now in a math edit area versus a text area of the document. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick equation here. Let's just do 2y equals 3x times
multi
3. Okay, and so this is an equation that would render a graph. So what I'm going to do is press backspace, enter, and the letter G to open HIMS math, which is essentially a graphing
2y equal 3x multi
calculator.
2y equal 3x multi 311 list item.
So I'm in this graphing calculator now, and I can add equations here. And these equations, now we see that we have a graph on the screen, Jose.
Cool.
And as I add graphs, it's going to render those in real time and in color. And if they overlap, because they're in color, a sighted person is going to be able to see where they overlap.
So
But for our purposes here,
F,
I'm going to go
menu.
again. I press F2, which is the same as pressing the Alt key, right? Or what's the equivalent on the Mac? It's space M or VOM.
E, pull graph.
I'm going to go
output
to
pull down menu.
Output,
display tactile graph.
and I
P,
can either
enter
display the
menu item.
tactile graph.
Send to embosser. P, enter P menu item.
I can send it to the embosser. I'm going to go ahead and display the tactile graph.
Display tactile graph. 2y equal 3x multi 311 list item.
And I actually see where the X and the Y axis intersect by default. And if I use my scroll buttons on the BrailleSense, I'm just kind of going down. I can see the curve widening out down and to the left. So I kind of get a basic idea. Now I'm going back up real quick, and I see I've crossed the X-axis, and I'm now going up and to the right. I see that widening out there. I can see the curve. So I have a good idea of what it looks like. If I'm satisfied with this, I'll just bail out of
2y equal 3x multi 311 list item.
And if I'm satisfied with the result, I can press enter with the letter G.
Successfully inserted math graph.
At which point the graph is inserted into my document. So if I go up to the top of the document.
Top of document then.
And I just start navigating down.
Literary Braille and math in the same document. Image 2y equal 3x multi 3.
And not only is the image of the graph appear there, but it also then gives me the algebraic equation in Braille.
What Braille translations does this device support? I'm guessing they're asking about like the language.
So that's a good question. I mean, HIMS, we do all our own Braille translation on board. So HIMS has all what we refer to as all these apps off the main menu, and all the apps before you get to the all apps folder are developed by our staff, including the book share downloader. We've got a podcaster, we've got the multimedia player. I mean, the list goes on and on. We built the screen reader into the BrailleSense 6. So the screen reader was built by HIMS from the ground up, including the Braille translation. So there's no need to use a Duxbury or a Braille Blaster or any third-party utility to translate, because all you need to do is save it on your BrailleSense, connect your BrailleSense to your computer maybe, or place the file onto an SD card or a thumb drive. And as soon as you go to open that file, it just automatically opens up as regular text. If you want to save it as a Braille file, then you would maybe switch the format to save it as a BRF or a BRL file.
Mhm.
But you don't have to think about the translation on the BrailleSense.
So someone who's in high school, if they were taking a French class for their language, the language credit that they need, or they're taking a Spanish class, they can do that on this device. They can do their Spanish assignments, their French assignments, or whatever election they're learning, elective. Sorry.
Yeah. In fact, I actually have if you go out to the HIMSS website and you go to our YouTube channel, there's actually a demonstration of me showing how I created a macro to switch language profiles. So, the default language for the user interface is, of course, English, and the same as the default Braille table. But you can change those, and you can do those, change them whenever you want. Or you can write a macro to say, okay, I want to use the Spanish TTS that you've got to download. And you can, in your macro, specify which TTS should come up, and you can also specify the Braille table that you want to use, the language table that you want to switch to. And you can actually go back and forth between two languages already with a keystroke.
That's cool.
And since I barely speak one language, I don't have much experience with keystroke.
Oh, that's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Very
It's
cool.
serious. I mean, this device, last week I traveled and I left my computer at home because it wasn't going to be a very long trip, first of all. And I was just so comfortable that I could get on the Wi-Fi in the hotel and do all the things I need to do, including my email and watching YouTube videos and things like that, it's just a wonderful thing to just have with you. And if you forget a document, or you need to, for example, if I need to go out and get a brochure for somebody, I can just do it.
Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap up this video. Earle, I found this to be very educational, entertaining. I mean, a device like the BrailleSense 6, it's small, and it's amazing that people who are as young as a fourth grader can use this device, and throughout their education, their profession, in their own home. I mean, this was really, really good. So I greatly appreciate you joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Jose, the pleasure was entirely mine. If you guys have any other questions subsequent to the conclusion of this program, just feel free to reach out to our friends at Florida Vision Technologies. And I thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, thank you. And with saying that, guys, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, like, subscribe, and share it. If you want to contact us, our toll-free number is 1-800-981-5119. Again, that's 1-800-981-5119. If you want to leave any feedback, you can shoot me an email at jose@floridareading.com. That's JOSE@floridareading.com. That's Earle. I'm Jose, and we're going to be signing out.